Hey everyone, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We're diving into a story today that's, well, it's got more twists and turns than a ballot in a hurricane.
Sounds exciting.
Yeah, it is, election integrity is always a hot topic.
Especially these days.
Yeah, exactly. And this case just throws more fuel on that fire.
Lay it on me.
Okay, so we're talking about Larry Lee Savage Jr., a MAGA candidate from Indiana.
Okay.
And he's found himself in a heap of trouble.
Oh, this is going to be good, I can already tell. So, how'd this guy get himself into hot water?
Well, it's a story that really does unfold like a political thriller. Savage was a Republican candidate in the recent primary, but
He
he
didn't do so well.
he didn't win in a landslide, let's just say that.
Oh, I see. Okay.
He only got 1.9% of the vote.
Wow, that's not a great showing.
Yeah, not exactly a resounding victory. But hold on, because here's where things get really interesting. So Savage, he was chosen to be an observer, right, for a public test of voting machines.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And these tests are really important. They're like a dress rehearsal for the voting machines.
Right, making sure everything's running smoothly before the big day.
Exactly, making sure that they're counting votes accurately and everything.
It's all about transparency.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly. Transparency and building trust in the whole process.
absolutely. Voters need to have confidence that their votes are being counted accurately.
Okay, so picture this. The public test is underway. Everyone's watching, kind of a tense atmosphere, and suddenly 2 ballots go missing.
Oh, no.
I know, right? So at first, everyone's thinking, okay, is this a glitch in the matrix? Are the machines messing up? But the real story is way juicier.
Okay, I'm all ears.
So, turns out it wasn't the machines at all. Security footage showed Savage pocketing 2 ballots.
No way.
Yeah, one was blank, and the other was a straight Republican ticket.
Wow, talk about bold. I mean, even if they were just test ballots, it's still.
Still a pretty brazen move. And under Indiana law, even test ballots are considered official documents.
Right, so there are legal ramifications to tampering with them.
And the plot thickens even more because when police searched Savage's home, guess what they found?
The ballots, right.
You got it. They found the missing ballots. And get this, they also uncovered this text message that he sent to another Republican official asking if anyone had even noticed the ballots were gone.
He's digging himself a deeper hole.
It's like something straight out of a courtroom drama.
Well, it certainly raises questions about his intentions. I mean, he's claiming that he didn't know he couldn't take the ballots home.
Right. Didn't know. Yeah, that seems like a pretty hard to believe excuse, given all the evidence.
Yeah, especially with that text message.
What do you make of his defense?
Honestly, I'm not sure what to think. I mean, it's going to be up to the legal system to decide, right?
Right.
But, in the court of public opinion, it definitely looks suspicious.
Yeah, that's for sure. So now Savage, he's facing some serious charges.
Yeah.
Destroying or misplacing a ballot and theft.
Those are pretty serious offenses.
Not exactly a slap on the wrist.
Yeah. Not at all. He could be facing some hefty fines, probation, even jail time.
But, here's the real kicker. Right before turning himself in, Savage records a Facebook video proclaiming his innocence.
Wow. Okay.
And then he uses his mugshot as his Facebook cover photo. It's like he's embracing the controversy.
That is fascinating. Is he trying to control the narrative? Maybe he's playing the victim? Or could he genuinely believe he's done nothing wrong?
It's like trying to figure out a puzzle. But his actions certainly raise a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And, this situation has sparked a much bigger conversation about election security, and the Republican Party has been quick to condemn Savage's actions, basically trying to distance himself.
Oh, for sure. They're doing some serious damage control. This has put election integrity under a microscope, especially with all the tension surrounding elections these days.
Yeah.
In this case, this just adds fuel to that fire.
It really does. So before we get into the broader implications, I think we need to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more on this wild election saga.
Okay, so we're back and ready to really dig into the wider implications of this whole thing with Savage. I mean, it's kind of crazy how something that seems so small, like almost a side note, can actually shine a light on all these bigger anxieties people have about elections.
Right. It's like, it's not just about this one guy and these 2 ballots. It's like, it kind of just, like you said, shines a light on this much deeper issue.
Exactly. Yeah. And so it makes you wonder if this kind of thing can happen during a public test where you'd think everyone would be super careful, then what's to stop something similar, but maybe even worse, from happening during the actual election,
Totally. Yeah. I mean, that's like the $1 million question, right? And I think it really highlights how important it is to, like, not just focus on catching people after they've done something wrong, but, like, having systems in place that make it, like, really hard to even try to interfere in the first place. Yeah, it's got to be more than just, like, waiting for something bad to happen and then reacting to it.
Yeah.
So, like, what would those systems look like? What are some of the things we could do to prevent something like this from happening again?
Well, I think a lot of it comes down to just being really careful and paying attention to detail at every step of the process. Like, election officials have got to be super meticulous about how they handle ballots, making sure like every single one is accounted for.
Hmm.
And there have to be clear procedures in place, like for chain of custody and stuff. So there's no question about where a ballot has been.
Right. So it's like no room for, like, oops, I accidentally put a ballot in my pocket.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Every step has to be documented.
Right.
And everyone involved needs to be like really aware of the importance of following those procedures.
Okay. So that's like the human element, making sure everyone's doing their job right. But are there also, like, technological safeguards that could help?
Oh, for sure. Like, we can use data analysis to look for unusual voting patterns, things that might signal that something fishy is going on. And audits are super important, actually going back and verifying the results to make sure they're accurate.
Right. So it's like a combination of technology, procedures, and good old-fashioned human accountability.
Exactly. And I think, we can't forget about the role of voters themselves in all of this. Like, if people are informed about how the process works and, like, they're actively paying attention, it makes it a lot harder for anyone to manipulate the system without getting caught.
Makes sense, yeah.
Mhm.
The more eyes on the process, the better.
Yeah.
Speaking of trying to figure things out, we still don't really know what was going through Savage's head. Like,
Mhm.
was he intentionally trying to mess with the election, or was he just, like, totally clueless about the rules?
I know, right? It's like, is this a case of malicious intent or just a really, really bad judgment call? It's hard to say for sure, but I think regardless of what his motivation was, this whole situation really underscores how important it is to protect the integrity of our elections.
Yeah, it's a reminder that every vote matters, and that we need to do everything we can to make sure the process is fair and trustworthy. Okay, so we've talked a lot about Larry Lee Savage Jr. and what he did and why it matters, but, here we are, just a few weeks away from another election, and this whole thing has me thinking, like, what does this mean for voters?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a lot to process.
It really is, and I'm kind of curious for
Ah,
everyone watching, like, does this whole Savage situation make you more confident in the upcoming election or less confident?
It's a good question.
It is a good question. Hit us up in the comments. Let us know what you think. What's your gut feeling?
Yeah, because I can see how it could go either way. Like, on the one hand, seeing something like this happen, it could make you think, oh man, the system is totally vulnerable. Like, anybody could just walk in and mess with things.
Right. Like, why even bother voting if the whole thing's rigged?
Exactly. But on the other hand, Savage did get caught, and now he's facing charges. So that shows that there are, like, checks and balances in place.
Yeah, so maybe it's a sign that this system actually kind of works. Like, people who try to cheat do get caught eventually.
Right. It's like a mixed message, it exposes the vulnerabilities, but it also shows that there are consequences for those who try to exploit them.
Okay, so maybe the takeaway here is that, like, we can't just sit back and assume that everything's going to be fine.
Definitely not.
We have to be active participants in this whole process.
Absolutely. And that means like staying informed, fact checking the stuff we see online, and like being aware of people who might be trying to manipulate us, especially during election season.
Yeah, good point, because there's a lot of misinformation out there,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
and it can be really hard to sort through it all. So I guess the key takeaway here is knowledge is power.
Right.
The more we understand about how elections work, the more we can, like, spot potential problems, advocate for solutions, and make sure that our voices are heard.
100%. I mean, an informed electorate is like the foundation of a strong democracy.
So true. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, and it's been a wild ride. But before we sign off, I want to remind everyone, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more deep dives like this one.
Yeah, and leave us a comment. Let us know what you think about this whole situation with Savage and what it means for our elections.
And as always, stay curious, folks.